tonight. The man removed from a Prince Albert hospital by security speaks out after he was left in the snow. Saskatchewan won't be part of the federal gun buyback program. And some Regina students learn what it's like to be a police officer.
This is CBC Saskatchewan News.
It is Tuesday, January 27th, and the CBC Saskatchewan News starts right now. I'm Ethan Williams. Thank you for joining us. A man who was found lying in the snow outside a hospital in Prince Albert is speaking about the incident. It happened after he was escorted out of the building by security guards, and he's now joining calls for a public inquiry into security practices. Aishwarya Duda has our top story.
It was like a nightmare.
Bryden LaFavor says he's the man in this video, being pushed out in a wheelchair by security at Victoria Hospital in Prince Albert late last year. The video sparked outrage online. Now LaFavor is speaking out.
It was very violently escorted out of the hospital by 3 security and basically thrown in the snow with a broken foot too.
LaFavor says after being treated, he was wheeled outside, intoxicated and disoriented. The Saskatchewan Health Authority later banned the guards, saying their actions did not meet SHA standards. His case is one of 500 serious complaints handled by the First Nations Health Ombudsperson's office, all involving hospital security and First Nations patients. That also includes the case of 36-year-old Trevor Dubois. He died after a physical altercation with security at Royal University Hospital earlier this month.
Trevor had an open complaint with our office.
Ombudsperson Diane Lafon says Dubois had already filed a complaint related to an incident here at RUH in September. Details of that complaint are part of an investigation into the circumstances surrounding his death. Lafon says her office is currently handling more than 20 serious complaints, all related to hospital security staff and First Nations patients.
We don't want to take our families into the hospital and them leaving in a body bag. That's not how it should be.
Last week, Saskatchewan's health ministry ordered an independent third-party review of hospital security policies across the province. But Lafon says that's not enough.
We want inclusion from our families to be able to share and tell their stories about what happened to their families. Inquiry.
She's calling for an independent public inquiry that involves her office. The province says it's still considering who will conduct the review and how quickly it can begin. As for LaFavor,
Just really hurt and paranoid to even go back to the hospital.
Aishwarya Duda, CBC News, Saskatoon.
Regina police have laid a charge in a fatal crash that happened at a bus stop in the city last fall. It happened just east of Pasqua Hospital over the Thanksgiving weekend. Police say the driver of a truck ran a red light, hit another vehicle, and went off the road before plowing through a bus shelter. 19-year-old Marvelous Agukachu was sitting inside that shelter. She died at the scene. 44-year-old Biniam Emaha has been charged with 1 count of dangerous driving causing death. He made his first appearance in provincial court Tuesday. A Saskatoon man who punched his friend during a drunken fight has been found guilty of manslaughter. Landon Waddell died in the altercation in November of 2024. The 37-year-old was assaulted in his home on 26th Street West by his friend Timothy Smith. Smith testified he only acted in self-defense on the night Waddell died, but the judge says he concocted a self-serving story. The mother of Waddell's daughter says the verdict is most impactful for their child.
She's been the most affected because that was her best friend, and to get his life taken away over something so silly, it's just the impact it's had on her and all of us. This is amazing. Today is an amazing day, and I'm so glad that justice is served. So happy.
Smith is expected to be back in court later this week to set a date for sentencing. The federal government is pressing forward with its firearm buyback program, but Saskatchewan is not taking part. CBC's Alexander Kwan has been following this story. He joins us now from our Regina newsroom. So Alexander, first off, what exactly is the federal firearm buyback program?
So since 2020, the federal government has banned 2,500 assault-style firearm models. Now, the assault-style firearms compensation program is the government's solution to people who own these firearms that were once considered legal but are now prohibited. And it essentially allows people to hand in their banned models for money. Now, Saskatchewan refuses to enforce or participate in this program, and it's actually introduced its own legislation in order to make sure people are fully compensated. Now, Public Safety Canada says if the amendments impede or limit the process for compensation, owners will not be compensated, even if they do declare their firearms. Now, they are encouraging the province to provide their residents with the option of seeking compensation, but it does leave people in Saskatchewan between a rock and a hard place, because right now they aren't going to get any money, even if they do declare their firearms.
Now, you've spoken with one gun owner in Saskatchewan. What does he think about all this?
William Prohor-Dorma has 3 firearms that he can get money for. Now, he wanted to stress that he doesn't support the federal buyback program, but he does want to comply with the law.
Rather than break the law just for having them, I figured I'd take part. Maybe I could actually get a little bit of money back on something that I purchased from a licensed retailer, paid taxes on, and have been in legal possession of for years.
So Saskatchewan Firearms Officer Robert Freeberg says he's launching 2 initiatives to help gun owners in this province. The first is going to be an online portal to provide appraisal for all firearms, ammunition, and accessories affected by the federal legislation. He also says he'll be allowing the provincial firearms office, which he runs, to collect and store firearms on behalf of owners who wish to voluntarily turn them in. Now, he stresses he's not seizing these guns. He's merely going to be holding them while the gun owners try and secure compensation from the federal government. Prohor-Dorma thinks this is ridiculous. He doesn't like the federal program. He doesn't believe it's going to work, but says for Saskatchewan to go its own way and implement a process that is essentially going to end with him still having to hand over his firearms is beyond frustrating. Now, he does admit once the province launches its storage program, he'll begrudgingly turn his firearms over.
So why is the provincial government so resistant to the federal program?
Well, it's a lot about political ideology and a belief that they are looking out for law-abiding firearms owners now, and as well as securing full compensation for those people. Now, under the federal program, gun owners have until March 31st to declare that they are now in possession of these firearms. There is a pool of almost $250 million that will compensate those who take part in the federal buyback. Now, that's calculated to pay for about 136,000 outlawed firearms from individual Canadians, and it's going to be administered on a first-come, first-served basis. Now, the province says they have done the math, and that's not enough for every gun owner in Saskatchewan to be compensated, let alone all of Canada. That's why they've introduced their provincial legislation, which is meant to ensure that that does happen.
Okay, Alexander, thank you. CBC's Alexander Kwan in our Regina newsroom. A group of environmentalists have lost their legal challenge against Saskatchewan's government. They wanted the courts to stop the province from extending the life of 3 coal-fired power plants in the province. A judge has now ruled it is not up to the courts to intervene. Environmentalists say Sask Power was already looking to offset its coal power with nuclear and other green sources, and it shouldn't keep the coal plants running.
That was all thrown in the dumpster with this provincial decision to keep the coal-fired power plants working. And we have no basis from the province for what this decision, how it came about, and why. It was basically just a letter to employees saying, here we go, we're going to do coal-fired power plants until 2050, maybe.
Halliday says the group may appeal the ruling. The province, meanwhile, says the courts made the right decision. Prime Minister Mark Carney is rejecting a U.S. official's account of Carney's phone call Monday with U.S. President Donald Trump. In an interview with Fox News, the U.S. Treasury Secretary claimed Carney walked back parts of his speech in Davos, Switzerland. Carney says that's not true.
Absolutely clear, and I said this to the president. I meant what I said in Davos. It was clear. It was a broader set of issues that Canada was the first country to understand the change in U.S. trade policy that he had initiated, and we're responding to that.
Carney says Trump understood his message. He also says Trump initiated the call and that they spoke about Canada's new deals with China and a number of other countries. Well, not quite as painful on the face for those walking around Wascana Park in Regina Tuesday. The cold and the wind backing off a bit, although that cold is still biting in spots. Weather specialist Mickey Wolf says it won't be long before we can shed a few more layers and really get outside. She'll have the full forecast after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Well, many of us likely remember the days of fantasizing about the toys on the shelves of Toys R Us, or maybe frantically picking up a last-minute Christmas gift there. But those days appear to be numbered for Toys R Us shoppers here in Saskatchewan. Jeremy Warren has that story.
It's the final sale at Toys R Us in Saskatchewan. The Canadian chain is closing stores across the country, and the Saskatoon and Regina locations won't be spared. Signs at the entrances to both locations say the stores are closing and everything must go. Shelves inside the Saskatoon store are already looking a little bare. This man says he's shopped at the Regina location for more than 20 years.
I've shopped here with my daughter. We bought all her baby stuff here. We bought lots of toys here. Toys R Us has stuff you can't find at other places or always did.
CBC could not reach Toys R Us Canada for comment, and it is not clear when the Saskatchewan stores will close their doors for good. Toys R Us Canada operates separately from the U.S. stores, which have also faced financial pressures. The Canadian chain recently announced store closures across Ontario and is being sued by suppliers and landlords over unpaid bills.
I know it's been going downhill for a long time. I'm surprised it's closing, though.
The allegations against Toys R Us Canada have not yet been tested in court, and the company largely denies the claims made by suppliers. So while the iconic chain is closing stores, this toy story isn't quite over. Jeremy Warren, CBC News, Saskatoon.
The end of an era. Weather specialist Mickey Wolf joining us now. Were you a Toys R Us kid, Mickey?
Ethan, the story breaks my heart. I was absolutely a Toys R Us kid. I had the little Barbie Jeep, all the different Barbie houses. That's where I got them. So it's definitely not Barbie convertible weather, though, or regular convertible weather for that matter, folks. We've still got some cold temperatures to get through across the province, especially if you're in the far north. Let's take a look at some active watches and warnings we've still got lingering in the province. As you can see right there, folks, we've got a cold warning active for the far north tonight. We're looking at wind chill values near -45 and a little bit colder. Very frosty. That's going to continue tonight, overnight into tomorrow morning. And, you know, just a good reminder here for frostbite freeze times. This gives you a little picture of how dangerous these conditions can be. So what's happening in the far north falls into that 10 to 5 minute freeze time for folks in those affected areas. Overall daytime highs, it certainly felt a lot colder in Saskatoon and Regina today with wind chill factor, but -15 and -16, not too bad, but we're gonna see things really start to warm up as we head into the weekend. Our skies right now, we're seeing potentially a little bit of flurries there for the south, but overall just some cloud cover, and we're going to see that mostly continue throughout the week. We're looking at a little bit of snowfall coming up here potentially as we get into Thursday overnight, especially for the north, then for the central region as well. But how much snow? I know that's on all of our minds here, so let's take a look at the numbers. As you can see, that starts to accumulate late Wednesday and then into Friday. We might see up to 4 centimeters for that west central part of the province, and in the north we might see a little bit more in the moderate range. La Loche and Buffalo Narrows might see up to 9 centimeters. Our wind chill still taking its time, leaving those frostier temperatures behind, especially for south and central Saskatchewan. We're looking at wind chill factors of -28 for Saskatoon tomorrow. And as we can see here, we've got potentially 0 degrees for Saturday and those warmer temperatures hanging on right through the week for Regina, at least right now. So it's a good time for cross-country skiing if you're into cross-country skiing. And same for Saskatoon, we're seeing that nice warm up as we get into Friday and Saturday. Again, we're looking at warmer than seasonal, but you know, I would personally take that over some of the colder things we've seen for this province. And again, we're seeing just a little bit of potential for snowfall Thursday and Saturday, but very low amounts. So Ethan, it's a really good time to get out this weekend, make some plans with friends, go for a walk, check out a little bit of skiing. How about you, Ethan?
I think maybe not Barbie convertible weather, but perhaps easy bake oven warmth weather for the next few days.
I like your thinking with that, Ethan. I'll take it.
Okay, well, we'll do that. All right, thanks, Mickey.
Thank you.
Well, we were not the only ones who were locked in that brutal cold snap we had recently. A massive winter storm has locked much of North America in an Arctic air mass, and it's covered several cities and towns across Canada and the U.S. in snow and ice. Johanna Wagstaff shows us how the collision of two weather systems created this wintry mess.
What happens when the polar vortex collides with an atmospheric river? Well, you don't just get a snowstorm, you get a system that affects more than 260 million people across the US and Canada, stretching from the Mexican border to the Atlantic coast. This is the science of how a single storm just froze half of North America. To understand it, we have to look way up to the plumbing of the atmosphere, if you will. So normally the polar vortex is a tight circular fence of wind holding the coldest air at the pole. But this winter, the Arctic was much warmer than average. That weakened the vortex, allowing lobes of cold polar air to spill south, way south. At the same time, a powerful storm developed in the Pacific Ocean and tracked towards California, tapping into a massive atmospheric river, a literal fire hose of tropical moisture. When that warm, moist air hit the heavy frozen air already in place, it was shoved upwards, the lift needed for storm clouds. And that massive temperature contrast did the rest, providing the energy for a high output snow machine. The National Weather Service wrote ahead of the storm, the Pineapple Express meets the Siberian Express. The scale is hard to wrap your head around. In the west, parts of New Mexico were buried under about 40 centimeters of snow. Then, as the storm tracked across the deep south, surface temperatures hovered near the freezing mark. Snow turned to ice, with accumulations topping 1.5 centimeters, snapping power lines and leaving over 1 million people without electricity. In southeast Arkansas, the storm dropped an incredible 18 centimeters of snow, so heavy roofs caved in. Farther north, that cold air was deeper, and the system unleashed the heaviest of the snow. A massive swath of 30 to 60 centimeters buried everything from Oklahoma to Maine. In Toronto, the storm brought an historic single-day snowfall total of 46 centimeters, with storm totals topping 56 centimeters. That pushes January 2026 snowfall to 88.2 centimeters for the city of Toronto, making it the snowiest January and the snowiest single month since records began in 1937. For context, that's more snow than Whistler has gotten in the past 2 weeks. For Atlantic Canada, this storm arrives at the end of a very long chain of events. But as the precipitation winds down, the real danger is just beginning. The polar air is now locked in place with record low temperatures all the way down to the Mexican border. If you have ice or snow on the ground right now, it's likely staying put well into February. And for the hundreds of thousands of people without power in the southern U.S., this is a life-threatening situation with homes and infrastructure not built to handle this cold. So for the foreseeable future, much of North America is locked into a pattern that's one for the record books in both scale and persistence.
Well, as the Olympic Games tick closer, the torch is continuing its travels, stopping at Olympic venues along the way. The torch landed in Cortina Monday, exactly 70 years after the opening of the first Winter Olympic Games in that city. Now the torch is on the move again, making its way to the ski jump and Nordic combined events venue Full Olympic coverage kicks off February 6th right here on CBC. We're back after the break. Regina's Scott Collegiate welcomed students from across Regina Public Schools Tuesday to learn more about its Police Academy program. Students saw live demonstrations by the Regina Police Service's Explosives Unit, K-9 Unit, and SWAT team, and got to do some hands-on learning.
Yes, we modeled ourselves after Reseda down in California. We went down there 2 years ago and visited their academy. Their academies are focused on military as well as policing. So their young people, their students really want to be in the military or policing. So they very well stress that. Here we take some of the aspects of their program into our program, but we aren't ones to sit there and make sure that you want to be a police officer.
We use digital X-ray equipment, so again, like I said earlier.
So I want to be a police officer. Currently, I'm serving in the Army Reserve and hoping to gain experience from the Scott Police Academy to go into policing and gain skills and all that. So I developed in a way where I gained leadership skills, communication skills, and skills to work with others.
And Mickey's back now for a look at a forecast that's good for all sorts of outdoor activities.
Absolutely, Ethan. This weather is going to be so gorgeous for any outdoor activities or indoor for that matter coming up to this weekend. But first, let's take a look at tonight's temperatures because things are still looking a little bit on the cooler side. Of course, unless you're in Maple Creek where we'll see lows near -10 tonight, but otherwise, especially central region, we are seeing those temperatures down to -25 tonight. And then again, the far north is looking at a yellow level cold warning, and that will continue into tomorrow morning at least. We are seeing a little bit of a warm up in the north tomorrow, especially for Beauville and Buffalo Narrows, just below -20. And in the south and central regions, we are seeing a really nice day so far. We're not going to see too much of a discrepancy between our highs here and the wind chill, so it should feel pretty close to the temperatures we're seeing on screen here, Ethan. So I'm definitely gonna lace up those snow boots, get outside, and enjoy some trails this weekend.
Yeah, that -1 in Maple Creek is sure gonna feel nice.
That's gonna feel really great for folks in Maple Creek. Always warm there.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you, Mickey.
Thank you.
And that is our news for this Tuesday. For more news anytime, you can head to our website or subscribe to our YouTube channel or download the CBC News app on your smartphone or tablet. Thanks so much for watching.